Hey there, YouTubers. So in this video, going to look at some various CPUs that I've used gaming in FortNite without graphics cards. Now, not everything, is so easily compared in this. This goes across different seasons, goes across some different platforms. And, RAM isn't always consistent on these, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you might get a little idea of whether something's gameable or not. So some of these are laptops, some are going to be desktops, some Intel, some AMD. I've got a lot more examples in this. I just figured I would throw these at you all. So in the first one, we have one of my gateway laptops that I still have. This one, had to crank down the resolution 720p to make it playable. 720p performance low, which is, a CPU bound setting. And usually, produces decent gaming depending on your hardware setup. This is the i5-1135G7 using the Aorus XE internal GPU. So you've got 16 gigs of system RAM in this. And we'll just fast forward all the way to the end of more towards the end of the game. You can see 54 FPS, so not too bad, but it is 720p. Playing that on a monitor or screen that's 1080p, kind of is disappointing, especially if you're somebody like me that likes much higher resolution. So it is gameable, but if you require a higher resolution, then not so. Let's move on. One thing I don't have for some reason, I had an i3 11 Gen laptop. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear I did any gaming setups like this. It would have been slightly worse, and that one was 8 gigs of RAM. So this one, 1200p, which is slightly greater than 1080p, performance low. This is the i3-1215U. It's a Lenovo, 8 gigs of RAM in it. And so I'm actually, towards the end of this. And you can see 67 FPS. So if you're a 1080p, you would expect that would probably be over 70 FPS. If you had more RAM, between those two, you should definitely be over 70. This one, I actually really like this laptop, even though it's only an i3 and only has 8 gigs of RAM. Pretty solid built. But, yeah, definitely gameable if you like performance low. Don't expect the same results if you were to do DX12 1080p low, right? So, which I actually prefer 1080p DX12. Now it looks a little choppy, probably because it was played over Wi-Fi and not plugged in via Ethernet. But obviously with that FPS, pretty playable. 60 hertz screen on it. Of course, if you were to plug this into 144 hertz screen, you'd be a little disappointed from that aspect. Moving on. So another 12th gen. I haven't got a i5 12th gen. We just kind of did the i3, and then there's a couple examples of different i7 12th gen laptops. So this here is a Sony Vaio. And honestly, a little surprised at the performance compared to what you just saw. This has 16 gigs of RAM and should be a much better CPU. As the example says, plugged into the wall, Wi-Fi, but only 43 FPS. Same season as the other 12th gen. So a little surprised by that, but maybe I need to play it a few more times to see if there'll be some better examples. Moving on, another i7-1255U example from that Sony Vaio. Only 42 FPS, so, consistently not so great. And I don't know why. Is it the Sony Vaio? Is it something else? Why is it worse than the i3? Maybe I need to play the i3 a few more times. Moving on, another Lenovo. This is actually my favorite laptop that I have that does not have a graphics card. Originally, it would have been the Sony Vaio, just because Sony over Lenovo. But this laptop goes all the way up to 2880 by 1800 resolution just on the built-in screen with it, right? So i7-1260U appears to be quite a bit more powerful than the other two. You can just barely see it, but this is the much higher resolution, and we're cranking out 56 FPS on a screen that is, can have the refresh rate set to 90 hertz. So not bad at all. I think I played this overseas, honestly, and it was through Wi-Fi. So probably, gets a bit choppy here and there and some other issues. But it was playable. On this example, I probably get killed here shortly. But, not too bad at all, folks. This is actually, out of the laptops I bought, preferred laptop. I think I could get rid of all the other ones and be relatively happy with it. And we do have one laptop that has a graphics card in it. That won't be, shown in this video, but that one would have been obviously the best. All right, moving on. So desktop. This is an i7-13700K, just using the integrated graphics. So you can see there 1080p performance low, 80 FPS. Now, this honestly looks like, at least in this example, it's the best of 1080p we've seen. But considering what that 12th Gen laptop put out with the Intel Aorus XE integrated graphics, that one, appears to be to have been superior. Of course, if you put a graphics card with this, it would just absolutely destroy that other CPU, as I stated. But 80 FPS in this one example. Let's see when we get closer to the end of the game, what it ends up at. 81 FPS, so pretty darn good. I do have the i9-13900kf, which does not have integrated graphics, but we have an i9-12900ks, which I did not do for this video, unfortunately. All right, so Ryzen 5 7600. This has 2 cores dedicated to graphics. 1080p low. This is DX12, so relatively playable. I think I did all right in this game. I don't know where I ended up at. So far, I don't have a single kill. 1 kill, and it goes to commercial. So we're not going to bother with that. But you can see, that was it was playable in DX12. Not exactly ideal. But if we look at it in performance mode, and I actually won this game, so it is playable. 70 FPS, folks, which doesn't make it as good as what? The 13700K, but, still pretty playable. This CPU, only like $220, where that 13700K, when I originally bought it, was close to $400. But put a graphics card with those two together, the 13700K would kill the Ryzen 5 7600. All right, moving on. This is a higher resolution example, 2560 by 1080, using an Ryzen 5 3400G. All right, so these were pretty good back in the day, and you know what? It's still pretty good. 77 FPS. This is a different season. This is last season. You see I had Darth Vader there. 77 FPS, and not bad at all. And, of course, there was a 5000 series with a G on it, and maybe there'll be a 7000 series. But this guy is 1080p low DX12. So I did not have a 1080p performance low example, but this is one of the higher DX12 performing numbers here. This only had 8 gigs of RAM in it. This is an HP desktop. And so you can see that, most likely performance low would be right up there. Probably at least where this is. I wouldn't be surprised if it hit 80. But yeah, there you go. It's a little comparison between different CPUs that I have without the discrete graphics card, only using integrated graphics. Thanks for checking out the video. Hope you got something out of it. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.